Well, good evening, everybody. I'm meteorologist Joe Chaffee. Welcome to tonight's Joe Chaffee Weather Show as we are enjoying a pretty nice evening here in my neck of the woods. The humidity levels have come down slowly, but they have come down. And we are about to go into a decent 3-day stretch of weather here for Friday, Saturday, and for Sunday for my neck of the woods, at least, eastern Pennsylvania to southern New England. But that's not going to be the case across the mid-Atlantic states, but particularly the southern part. You get down to from southern Virginia southward and then westward from there into the Tennessee Valley and through the Gulf states. We are going to see some heavy rains, and they are going to be substantial over the next 3 or 4 days of 5 inches plus. And we'll show you what WPC is thinking about this, the Weather Prediction Center. But I want to start off first with conditions right now. I know it's usually a little hard to see some of these numbers, so I'll translate for you. But we have got the dew points. I've noticed in the last, of course, now the numbers disappeared. There they go. But the dew points have actually dropped about 3 or 4 degrees in the last 2 hours. So I'm seeing dew points now in the upper 50s around New York City. We still have some dew points in the mid-60s in southern New Jersey and down into the Delmarva Peninsula, and even a 72 dew point showing up. I'm not sure what station that is, at Ocean City, Maryland, so they're right on the coast. That kind of makes sense. You can also see the current radar echoes. I've overlaid those. We have a small patch of showers and looks like maybe a couple of small thunderstorms there off the coast of Ocean County and Atlantic and Cape May County in southern New Jersey. We also have a few cells scattered around. There were some over the Chesapeake Bay. There seemed to be a few lined up north and northeast of Richmond, where we've got temperatures in the mid to upper 80s and dew points in the mid 60s. But going up to the north this evening through upstate New York and into southern Canada, which is where our air is going to be coming from, you've got dew points down in the low 50s, even a few 40s showing up now, well up into upstate New York. But nonetheless, the air is coming down from this area and from southeastern Canada and back over the Great Lakes, where temperatures and dew points are very reasonable right now. In the meantime, if we want to go to some spots where it's perhaps a bit unreasonable, is in the southeast, where we do have patches of rain and some heavier downpours and a few thunderstorms. Now, it's not raining everywhere continuously. You'll notice there's a big gap there in North Carolina and into parts of South Carolina and Georgia. We've got rain north and west of Atlanta with temperatures there just in the 70s. So back as you go westward, where you're in that deep cloud cover and the tropical moisture, you've got temperatures mostly in the middle 70s and dew points up in the mid to upper 60s, while you head into the Carolinas and you're looking at temperatures up in the middle 80s and upper 80s from earlier, and dew points in the 70s. There was a bit more sun to play with in this particular area. But the bottom line is this is a large area of rain that you're seeing on the on this view that covers the southeast. The northern edge of this is in northern Virginia, back through Kentucky and on over into Tennessee and Arkansas, Alabama, Mississippi. There was some heavy rains in southeast Texas and into yesterday and last night into southeast Louisiana, with some heavy thunderstorms and some severe weather that moved through earlier today. That part of the equation has kind of moderated just a little bit. Here's what it looks like on the surface map tonight. Still a little early for the 21Z, the 5 o'clock surface map, but here's that frontal boundary that is just very slowly seeping southward. They have it drawn as a stationary front as of 2 p.m., but judging from the dew points that have been falling a bit, that front is probably starting to move back as a very, very slow-moving cold front, waiting for this high up to the north to start strengthening. You've got higher pressures that are going to be building over James Bay and in southeastern Canada. That's going to push that front further and further to the south. And in the meantime, You've got this sort of amorphous low pressure area with a weak warm front that's being analyzed there in southern Mississippi, and that low is exerting its influence. This is part of a large part of this is that system that was in the southwest Gulf that took forever to move northwestward, and then northward, and it has finally done so. So we're going to start to see its impact in a big way over the next couple of days. So I'm going to come back to the window in a moment. But first off, let's start off with what's going on severe weather-wise, because we do have some severe weather activity going on this evening, thanks to the storm, our friends at the Storm Prediction Center. We have that marginal to slight risk in southern Alabama and Mississippi. And we have we had a working tornado watch, but it looks like that's done. Now, you have a second area of slight to enhanced risk in South Texas around the coastal bend, going from Houston on one end and Corpus Christi on the other. And inside that, we have that enhanced risk, and we have a working severe thunderstorm watch that has gone up for this particular area. The thunderstorms are actually getting enhanced, and you'll see it better on the radar shot, but it's a little tough to see on the overlay. But there's a rotation back in western Oklahoma, so that's the upper low that is driving all this. And we also have a couple of severe thunderstorm watches up for the northern half of Utah, eastern Idaho, and on up in through western Montana, as we have a large area of slight risk being indicated for that part of the U.S., which is, we don't often see that, but we like to call attention to it. We do have a few folks that watch us here from parts of the Rockies and parts of the Northwest. The rain issues with regards to this southern system, we're seeing the beginnings of some flood watches, and that's in the green areas there in Oklahoma, northwest Arkansas, southwest Missouri, and southeast Kansas, and some flash flood warnings in that dark red showing up as well. You're going to see additional flood watches, I think, go up over the next 2 days across the Gulf states and eventually into the southeastern states. We do have a small area of flood watches up for the immediate Gulf Coast in Mississippi and in Alabama, and of course you see the working severe thunderstorm watches and even some high wind issues in parts of Nevada and in the Sierra Nevadas in California. So otherwise, everything over the rest of the nation is pretty calm and quiet. And with respect to all of this that's going to be happening, our friends at WPC, the Weather Prediction Center, I really think their quantitative precipitation forecast maps are well done most of the time. They usually have a pretty good handle on what's going to happen. This is for the next 7 days, the period beginning at 8 p.m. tonight and lasting until 8 p.m. next Thursday night. And that's a lot of rainfall that's being indicated. That's a little bit of a 10-inch swipe that you see there right along the coast in the Florida Panhandle. And elsewhere in the southeast and in the Gulf states, particularly in the eastern part of the Gulf states, you're looking at a fairly large area of rain of several to, let's call it, many inches, 5 inches or more, and a large area of 5 inches or more from northeastern Georgia into southwestern Virginia. The 3-inch, which would probably be that red area, makes it up to roughly to Delaware, and then it just kind of tapers off a little bit, but we're still seeing amounts every bit of 1.5 inches to 2 inches being forecast up into the Hudson Valley and into southwestern New England. Amounts tail off a bit as we go further north to about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. The southwest is dry. We're seeing less in the way of rainfall being indicated for the southern plains and for the middle and upper Mississippi Valley, particularly in the areas of the southern plains that have been hit very hard by rain over the last couple of weeks. So getting a little bit of a break there, and that is certainly good news. So here's the U.S. satellite view tonight, and the large circulation here of, well, you certainly see the upper low. And that is what's the rotation back on the west side. It has really pulled up all this tropical moisture and has just swept it into the Gulf states. And now, of course, you're going to run into this battle that we've been describing. If you look on the upper part of this picture from the center to the right, that is all clear skies, or mostly clear skies anyway, southeastern Canada through upstate New York and into New England, and back through the Great Lakes. So this is our higher pressures, and that high is going to be pressing southward over and holding all this moisture. You've got an upper ridge that's going to be building from eastern Virginia to the Great Lakes, and that's going to pretty much put a wall between the dry air that's to the north and the very, very moist tropical air to the south. So it's going to be 3 days before this moisture really starts to lift northward of any importance. We're going to be trying to figure out the extent of the high clouds, how far north did they get. But it might wind up being drier than you think. Oftentimes the models try to push the moisture up into the dry air, and the dry air gets very, very stubborn. So I certainly feel optimistic for my area of coverage, eastern PA to southern New England and everybody in between, that we're going to be fine Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Other than some patchy clouds every once in a while, I think we're going to be in good shape. You get down into Delaware and points south. This is where it gets a little tricky, I think, for Sunday. How much cloud cover is going to lift northward? How far north is the rain going to get? I'm thinking that really the bulk of it is going to wait until Sunday night in those areas before pushing further to the north. So hopeful that we are going to be okay for the weekend. As I said, for my area, I feel pretty good about it. Now here's the radar loop tonight. Pretty busy in the southeast. You got these large patches of rain with embedded thunderstorms, some moving off the South Carolina coast. You've got some heavier downpours and thunderstorms in parts of northern North Carolina, but not a whole lot going on there. You have rain and some thunderstorms on the Florida Panhandle, off the coast of Louisiana, and off the coast of Mississippi and Alabama. It appears that the severe weather risk here may have run its course when that area moved through a couple of hours ago. We'll have to see if there's any additional convective development, but it looks like the arm of moisture is a little further to the east. And then you've got some downpours and thunderstorms running around through parts of Alabama and into Georgia. You have rain and some heavier downpours in Tennessee, storms across Kentucky, and then here we go back to the upper low, and of course you've got this area of downpours and heavy thunderstorms. Rain seems to be the biggest issue here, and of course we saw where the warnings were up with regards to flash flooding. Just take a quick look up in the northern Rockies where we do have that threat for severe weather, and you're starting to see some convection developing here in parts of Idaho and Montana and back up into northwestern Utah. So certainly looks like that slight risk is going to be justified, and so are the working severe thunderstorm watches that we have for this particular area. Okay, so I think what I want to do is I'm going to get the paint box going. And my computer is running just a little bit on the slow side today, so just please bear that in mind, and I appreciate your patience. But I want to start off with the upper air, and we're going to take a look at, first off, let me see how much of the new GFS is out. It might be out far enough. And I wrote about this earlier today. With regards to what's happening here. And of course, let me start it off with the upper air at the moment, which is going to see this. You got this upper low. You see it back near Oklahoma. You have this vortex that's in eastern Canada. And of course, that's driving the northern jet, bringing in that drier air. That upper low winds up east of Newfoundland. And now as we move through the weekend, you'll notice that you have another upper low that is forming in north central Canada with a trough extending down into the Dakotas. You have that southern system that's kind of laying there in the Tennessee Valley. And then right off the New Jersey coast, pointing northwest to upstate New York, is this finger. It looks just like a finger pointing northwestward. That's your ridge, and that ridge is built up into eastern Canada. So that is what is left of the ridge. It's actually a little stronger on Saturday, but it's still there on Sunday, but gradually it's going to weaken out, and then you're going to be able to lift that southern moisture up as this first trough swings toward the east coast. So I'll just I'm now going to go to the paint box. So let me get this image on here, and let's bring the paint box front and center for you. And there you have it. Okay, so here's what's happening. So you've got your trough. Okay, pay attention to the fact that you've got this upper low right in here in north central Canada. You have this upper low that's sitting near east of Newfoundland. Those of you who know about blocking, that is basically a 50-50 low. And we do have a blocky look here up in Greenland and in the North Atlantic. So it basically has locked these two upper lows in place, which is fine as long as this ridge here in the east is still holding on. But there is enough of a weakness there where you're going to see the ridge weaken, and as I said, you're going to bring up this trough. Now, as we move into next week, and here's where I'm going to switch back to the earlier GFS because I could take it out a little bit further. So we're going to get that moisture coming up from the south for Monday into early Tuesday. The first system pulls out, and here's what it looks like. And I'm going to jump to the GFS for Tuesday night. Okay, so hold on a second here. I got a misbehaving paint box at the moment. There we go. All right, so let me get rid of this. So this is what the jet stream looks like for Sunday evening. So we'll get rain Monday into Tuesday, and there might be some heavy downpours with the system that's lifting up. But here we are now. I've jumped over to Tuesday night, and here's what you have on Tuesday night. So you still have some semblance of a 50-50 low sitting east of Newfoundland. Actually, I should draw that in red. I like to draw the lows in red. You have now this vortex in northern Canada, in north central Canada, really strengthens and drives troughing down into the middle and upper Mississippi Valley. Your first system has already kicked out to the northeast, so this would suggest we'd see improving weather conditions maybe later in the day on Tuesday, and Wednesday would be okay. But now you've got the second trough that's digging down, and that's going to be moving eastward and sending probably a second system, and I drew that in the wrong spot, but after the first one goes by, you're going to probably wind up with a stalled frontal boundary along the east coast, and I think you're going to wind up with some kind of low that's going to develop near the coast and bring some rain for Wednesday night and Thursday, along with northeast winds. So we could be setting up for a bit of an onshore flow type situation with a developing wave along the coast and moving northeastward. Now, provided that this next trough digs as advertised. I did notice on the day models today that both the European and the GFS seem to be on the same page with this. So if that remains the case, then I think the odds are pretty good that we could wind up seeing that happen. So let's come back and we'll go to, because if we move this along, you'll see that trough really sharpens up and then swings northeastward for Wednesday night and Thursday. Once that's done, it looks like the upper flow wants to go westerly or northwesterly, trough off the east coast for Father's Day, a nice northwest flow out of Canada. So this would certainly suggest that we could see some drying conditions in the east and temperatures probably close to average or maybe even a little bit below in New England. But you've got this ridge that's building from along 90 degrees west from New Orleans to Chicago and points northward. So that bodes well to dry things out in the southeast and in the Gulf states for at least a few days after all the rain that they're going to be getting between now and the early part of next week. So we might be going into a decent pattern once we work through whatever issues we work through for next week. So let's come back. Let me make sure that you guys are seeing what you should be seeing, which is the GFS, and you are, so that's good. Maps, as always, we like to give credit to tropicaltidbits.com. Very good website, actually a great website, I should say, where we have all sorts of models to look at, and it really comes in handy with analyzing all of this. So we appreciate being able to use them on our live streams and when we put up our website posts. So let's back away and we'll watch the late afternoon GFS. So we're into Saturday. There's your high in eastern Canada. The winds are going to be northeasterly from Virginia on up into New England, but the air is, especially from the Delmarva Peninsula, from Delaware at least, or Maryland northward through Saturday, should be all dry, and I'm not expecting any problems. The high settles in Vermont. This is Saturday afternoon. You've got rain in southern Virginia and downpours through pretty much where you're seeing them today, down into northern Florida. Going into Sunday, this is Sunday afternoon. That rain, the northern fringe of that rain gets to the southern part of the Delmarva Peninsula to about Washington, D.C., Baltimore, and it doesn't really move much further north than that. So I'm going to stay optimistic, and now we go into Sunday night and Monday, and now here's where you got that first arm and that first trough swinging around with also a cold front that's going to be swinging with that, and you're going to bring up this moisture in the form of downpours and some thunderstorms. It's going to fight that high for a while, so we might not see those downpours come in until later Monday afternoon or Monday night into Tuesday. This front's going to stall, and now you're going to have that second shortwave digging down and around, and this is how the GFS handles it, along with the European, bringing a low up the coast. The European's actually offshore. The GFS is a little further inland, and this will bring a round of rain for, if you want to time it, we could say Wednesday night into Thursday, but at this point, there's still there's way too many variables out in the long range with regards to this, but the overall flavor of the upper pattern suggests that this is how this is all going to play. And I'll back up one run so we can go a little bit further. You'll see that after that goes out, the model starts to have a little bit of difficulty trying to figure out where frontal boundaries are going to lie. But you are going to see troughing off the East Coast. I would tend to think that it should mean dry weather for New England down through the Northeast. There will be a frontal boundary to the south with some showers and downpours, but we're not looking at any kind of widespread rain here as we take a quick early look at the Father's Day weekend. You know, one of the things about Father's Day weekend that for the most part, dads don't really care too much about what the weather is like, as long as they can get some dry time to golf, if that's their thing, or fish, which happens to be my thing, and they're happy. So if we can pull that off, I think most folks will be satisfied. All right, let's at this stage, let's pull up. There's nothing going on in the tropics, both in the Atlantic and in the Pacific side. No cyclone development tropical cyclone development is expected anywhere in the Atlantic or the East Pacific basin over the next 5 days. But I figured let me bring up the satellite loop, and there's a lot of shear across the Caribbean. You got a lot of clouds moving from west to east. You can see the low-level clouds are going east to west. The high-level clouds are getting blown off west to east. So there's wind shear everywhere. There's strong wind shear across the tropical Atlantic, which is where you would not expect to see development this time of year anyway. There's some kind of upper low out in the central Atlantic, well to the northeast of Puerto Rico, of the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico, and it looks like it's also, if I can see where, yeah, I got it. That looks like it's mostly east of Bermuda, but that looks like an upper low or some kind of trough interacting with an upper low, and you're seeing the cloud tops getting blown away anyhow. And of course, you can also see the tropical moisture that's moved into the southeast part of the United States, and the upper low that is spitting back. That's on the upper left part of your picture. By the way, take a look over Cuba and over the Dominican Republic and Puerto Rico. You're seeing thunderstorms, the diurnal thunderstorms develop, and the high cloud tops getting blown off by strong northerly winds. You do have a trough off the east coast here, and strong northerly winds in the high levels of the atmosphere just blowing those cloud tops off. But it's the GO 16 imagery is so impressive that you can pick out all these details, and we're going to have it with the hurricane season, of course. It's going to be, because I don't think we had it. If I were to think back to last year, I don't believe that we had it for the hurricanes, much of the hurricane season last year. If we did, it was for a smaller part of it. But my memory is not the best of these days. I could be wrong, but nonetheless, we are going to see it. We are going to have it this year, and we're going to be able to really have some fun taking a look at these tropical cyclones and watching them in their formative stages. You'll sometimes on the older loops, it was always a little tough to pick out low-level circulations. On these, they're usually much easier to see. And also when we're looking for wind shear and to see if these storms are getting blown apart, that is certainly going to be very handy, a handy tool for us to use. Okay, I know when the weather is nice, and particularly as we get into the month of June and toward the end of a week, there's proms going on. There's all sorts of things going on, and I know that keeps is keeping the audience size small. So it's a nice, cozy little group today of 27 people. When we get these, storms, we've had many days where we've had several hundred people or more during the live stream, and during the hurricane, sometimes those numbers go up close to 1,000. But right now, it's one of those calm periods. So you know what? I get to say hello to Mirtha Gunter, Joseph Nurek, James NASCAR fan, Robert Brown, Chris Alley, Erica Baker, Johnny Quest, Robert Brown. If I say them twice, forgive me. I did say Chris Alley. I know that. Amy Hogan from the great state of Maine. Captain Pat, nice to see you. Have a good day. All time for me to go do some work in the garden while the sun is out. Not a bad idea. By the way, Mirtha Gunter, you're going to get your rain because I know you need it down your way. You will get it over the next 4 or 5 days. And did I get everybody? Delvin's even on tonight. I haven't seen you in a while. 99 Wolves, nice to see you on board tonight. Kristen Apedia and William Huber, good to see you. And by the way, you just reminded me, Bill, because you mentioned this yesterday. Don't forget, I'm doing Weather in 5 in the morning, 5 days in 5 minutes, so you can get a quick update on what's going on weather-wise. Sure, while the weather is quiet, that's one thing, but at least you know it's there when it's busy. If you want to, if you need to give an early look and not wait for the live stream, I'm doing them every single day, and I'm going to stick to that. Wolf ANOZ, Wolfanoz, howdy to you too. Nice to see you. I think you might be new to the board, and you were monsoon season. I'd be curious as to where you are, if you're still on, if you're still watching. And up we go. I think Scott Briller, the chairman, was on earlier. His mom is slowly but surely getting better, and we're glad to hear that. Recovery a day at a time. All right, I think we got everyone on here, so that's a good thing. All right, folks, we're coming up on 6:30 Eastern Time. Let me just remind everybody really quickly that, of course, when it comes to severe weather and the latest radars that you saw here on the live stream, if you're watching this on a replay, clearly they're dated. So you want to go to your local National Weather Service office page to see the latest radars and any watches and warnings that are up, and you can do that by going to weather.gov. So we've got Weather in 5 tomorrow morning. There's no Joe Rayo. There's no Joe and Joe show tonight because Joe is off today, but he'll be back tomorrow, so we'll probably do one to finish off the week. And we'll be back tomorrow night with our regular live stream, probably at either 6 o'clock Eastern or 7 o'clock Eastern, depending on what's going on with me. as far as the stuff I have to do. All right, folks, have a great evening. Thanks for being here. Oh, one last thing. If you haven't done it already, download my weather app for Androids or for the iPhone. You go to the Google Play or the App Store. Just search Meteorologist Joe Chaffee, or on the Google Play you can just search Joe Chaffee. We have an update coming. Should be out in the next couple of weeks. It's getting ready to be resubmitted to Google and Apple. And as soon as it's updated, I'll let you know. And if you have the app already, the update should come to you automatically. Some changes that we're making that I think are going to make the experience even better. Have a great evening, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow.